Let's start it with our first news. Robert Whittaker recently shared his thoughts on Magomed Ankalaev's future in the UFC, expressing serious doubts about whether the Russian light heavyweight contender will ever receive another title shot. During his discussion, Whittaker reflected on Ankalaev's 2 fights against Alex Pereira and how drastically different the outcomes were. According to Whittaker, the first bout didn't truly represent Pereira's capabilities due to the Brazilian's physical condition at the time. Whittaker noted that Pereira himself admitted to being far from his best during the first fight. He said in his first fight he was fighting at 40%. He was sick. He had injuries, Whittaker explained. And honestly, I believe him now. While many fans and analysts initially dismissed Pereira's comments as excuses, Whittaker now believes the Brazilian was telling the truth. He added, "It's not that I didn't believe him the first time, but everyone was like, okay, sure, but Ankalaev still controlled that fight, and what happened, happened." However, after witnessing their rematch, Whittaker's opinion changed completely. The difference between the two performances was, in his words, crazy. He described it as a night and day transformation, one that made him realize just how off Pereira must have been the first time they met. "Now I'm like, dude, he must have had leprosy or something, because the difference between the first and second fight was insane," Whittaker joked. "The way Pereira fought this time, that's the version of him everyone expected to see in the first fight." Whittaker went on to say that the rematch proved Pereira's dominance and underscored just how dangerous he is in any fight. "This second fight showed the real Alex Pereira," he said. "This is how everyone envisions his fights going: explosive, precise, and devastating." When it comes to Ankalaev's future, Whittaker didn't hold back his assessment. He believes that Ankalaev's loss to Pereira has set him back significantly in the title picture. "It's safe to say that Magomed Ankalaev is probably never seeing a title opportunity for a long time, if ever," Whittaker remarked. "That division is stacked with killers, and a loss like that puts you at the back of the line." Whittaker also mentioned that Ankalaev's style and personality might not help his case with the fans or the UFC brass. "He's going to have to work his way back up," Whittaker said. "You obviously don't love the guy to begin with, and now, after that kind of performance, he's going to have to go through the grinder that is the light heavyweight division." In closing, Whittaker admitted that he's still stunned by how one-sided the rematch was. "I'm still shocked," he said. "What a fight. What a performance from Pereira. It just goes to show that sometimes, when fighters talk about being injured or sick, there's more truth to it than we realize." Whittaker's remarks highlight a growing sentiment among MMA fans and analysts that Alex Pereira is a generational talent capable of adapting, evolving, and rising to the occasion when it matters most, while Magomed Ankalaev may now face one of the toughest climbs back to contention in his entire career. Before we jump into the next story, we have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon. It really helps us out and ensures you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. UFC featherweight champion Ilia Topuria shared an emotional and heartfelt message to honor his friend and fellow fighter. Topuria took to social media platform X, formerly Twitter, to celebrate Dvalishvili's continued success and to remind fans just how much work and dedication lies behind his accomplishments. In his post, Topuria shared a photo of the two standing side by side and wrote a message that reflected deep respect and admiration. "Brother, we've reached the point where your victories seem almost normal," Topuria began, "but we all know how hard it is to get there. I say it with pride, you're a living legend, an example of hard work, sacrifice, and heart." Topuria's words carried the tone of someone who understands firsthand what it takes to climb to the top of the sport. He went on to describe Dvalishvili not only as an elite athlete but also as a remarkable human being. "Beyond the fighter, you're an incredible person with a soul too big for your chest," he continued. "We love you, we support you, and we are with you every step of the way." The message quickly gained attention across the MMA community, with fans and fighters alike praising Topuria for his humility and sportsmanship. Despite being one of the most confident and outspoken champions in the UFC today, Topuria showed a different side of himself, one rooted in loyalty, friendship, and respect. His words were not the typical trash talk or rivalry-fueled remarks often seen in the fight game. Instead, they were a genuine tribute to a peer whose dedication continues to inspire many. Merab Dvalishvili, known for his relentless pace and unmatched cardio, has become one of the most respected fighters in the bantamweight division. His recent performances have cemented his position as a legitimate title contender, and his journey from a struggling prospect to one of the UFC's most consistent winners has been nothing short of remarkable. Topuria's message highlighted that transformation, the years of sacrifice, the endless grind, and the mental toughness required to reach that level. For Topuria, who himself has risen rapidly through the ranks to capture gold, Dvalishvili's story resonates deeply. Both fighters come from humble beginnings, both have represented their countries with pride, and both embody the values of discipline and perseverance. Topuria's post served as a reminder that behind every fighter's victory are countless unseen battles, the grueling training camps, injuries, setbacks, and sacrifices made away from the spotlight. Following Topuria's heartfelt post, MMA analyst Sean O'Malley, often stylized as Sean Ali in transcripts, also weighed in on the interaction, expressing his appreciation for the show of respect between two high-level competitors. O'Malley, who is currently one of the biggest names in the bantamweight division, noted that such gestures remind fans that beneath the rivalries in entertainment, MMA remains a sport built on mutual respect. Topuria's message to Merab Dvalishvili stands as one of the most touching exchanges seen in recent months, a moment that transcended competition and reminded fans of the brotherhood shared among fighters. It showcased not only Topuria's admiration for Dvalishvili's accomplishments but also the deep sense of unity and mutual support that continues to define the best of the MMA world. Move on to another news. After UFC 320, interim heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall openly admitted that he had underestimated Alex Pereira ahead of the Brazilian's rematch with Magomed Ankalaev. Before the fight, Aspinall had confidently predicted that Ankalaev would once again defeat Pereira, citing the Russian's strong wrestling base and control in their first bout. However, Pereira's dominant performance in the rematch completely changed Aspinall's perspective. Reflecting on the fight, Aspinall didn't hesitate to give Pereira full credit for his stunning victory. "Bro, he just absolutely ran through him," Aspinall said with genuine astonishment. "Look, I was wrong. That was very, very impressive." His tone was one of admiration and humility, a rare moment in the fight world where a top contender openly acknowledges being proven wrong. Aspinall, who has always been known for his honesty and analytical insight, elaborated that Pereira's improvement between the two fights was nothing short of remarkable. In the first encounter, Ankalaev had successfully neutralized Pereira's striking by controlling the distance and implementing his grappling. Many analysts, including Aspinall, believed that if the fight followed a similar pattern, Pereira would struggle again. Instead, Pereira flipped the script. He displayed sharper takedown defense, more precise counterstriking, and an improved ability to dictate the pace. "What Alex did in that rematch showed not only his skill but his adaptability," Aspinall explained. "He learned from his mistakes and came back even better. That's what great champions do." Aspinall also touched on the broader implications of Pereira's win, noting how his success across multiple divisions has cemented his place as one of the UFC's most dangerous and accomplished fighters. "He's a two-division champion, and every time people doubt him, he proves them wrong," Aspinall said. "It's hard not to respect that." When asked who might be next for Pereira, Aspinall said it would depend on what direction the UFC wants to take but mentioned that Carlos Ulberg could be a potential contender. "Ulberg just got a big win, and he's looked really good lately," Aspinall said. "I know Pereira's talked about moving up to heavyweight as well, so we'll have to see what the UFC wants to do. Whatever happens, it's going to be exciting." Aspinall's remarks also reflected a sense of curiosity about what Pereira's next move might be. Given Pereira's size, power, and composure, a potential move to heavyweight has been a topic of discussion for months. If Pereira were to pursue the challenge, he could become one of the few fighters in history to win titles in 3 divisions, an achievement that would further solidify his legacy as a generational talent. In the end, Aspinall's candid comments showed why he's respected not only as a fighter but also as a student of the sport. His willingness to admit he was wrong, coupled with his praise for Pereira's performance, added to the growing admiration for the Brazilian's remarkable rise. "You have to give credit where it's due," Aspinall concluded. "Alex Pereira is special. He's proven it time and time again." The heavyweight champion's humility and honesty served as a refreshing reminder that in MMA, even the most seasoned fighters are still fans of the sport, capable of being surprised, impressed, and inspired by the brilliance of their peers. Move on to another news. UFC President Dana White has officially addressed recent claims made by Conor McGregor, who stated that his long-anticipated return to the octagon, supposedly taking place at the White House, was a done deal. While McGregor's declaration sent shockwaves across the MMA world and fueled fan excitement, Dana White was quick to clarify that no fight has been finalized and that discussions are still in the very early stages. Speaking to reporters, White explained that while the concept of hosting an event at the White House is indeed being explored, the UFC has not yet entered into any formal fight negotiations for the card. "We're still talking about the production and how everything's going to work at the White House," Dana said. "We have not started negotiating any fights for that event yet. That won't even start until February." According to White, much of the current discussion revolves around the logistics of hosting such an unprecedented event, one that would combine the spectacle of the UFC with the historic setting of the White House. Organizing the venue, managing security, and coordinating broadcast details are all part of a complex process that needs to be fully worked out before the UFC can begin locking in fights or making official announcements. Despite McGregor's confidence, White emphasized that nothing has been signed or agreed upon. "Conor wants to fight on that card, that much is clear," White said. "You can see he's fired up, he's motivated, and he's been training hard. But nothing is done yet, and no fights are being negotiated with the White House." White's statement reflects his usual approach to McGregor-related news, measured, pragmatic, and focused on ensuring that speculation doesn't outpace reality. Over the years, McGregor has made headlines with bold announcements about potential fights or comebacks, and while many of them eventually materialized, the UFC boss made it clear that this particular claim is premature. Still, White acknowledged McGregor's enthusiasm and hinted that the Irish superstar remains a key figure in the UFC's plans plans moving forward.
Conor's energy right now is incredible, White said.
He's been pushing hard to get back in there, and obviously he wants to make history by fighting on what would be one of the most unique cards in UFC history. But like I said, there's still a lot that needs to happen before anything can be confirmed. The potential White House card, rumored to be part of a special collaboration between the UFC and US officials, has already captured global attention. If it comes to fruition, it would mark one of the most iconic venues ever to host a mixed martial arts event. However, White's comments made it clear that the UFC is prioritizing planning and logistics before moving on to matchmaking and fighter contracts. In closing, White reiterated his message: "We're excited about the idea, we're working on it, but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Until we get the details ironed out, there are no fights being negotiated, including Conor's."
For now, McGregor's return remains one of the most anticipated stories in combat sports. Fans will have to wait until early next year to find out whether the Notorious will indeed make history by stepping back into the octagon, possibly on the most high-profile stage of his career.
Move on to another news.
After his dominant victory at UFC 320, Alex Pereira was once again the center of attention, not only for his incredible performance but also for the wave of callouts that followed.
Among them was a familiar name, Khamzat Chimaev.
The undefeated middleweight champion wasted no time taking to social media platform X, formerly Twitter, where he tagged Pereira directly and wrote, "Congrats, now we need to finish our business." The message quickly went viral, sparking widespread speculation about a potential super fight between the two. Fans began imagining what a clash between Pereira's world-class striking and Chimaev's relentless wrestling would look like. However, during the post-fight press conference, Pereira appeared entirely unmoved by the callout, shutting down the idea with calm confidence and clear direction about what he wants next. When asked by a reporter if he had seen Chimaev's post and whether he was interested in facing the middleweight champion, Pereira responded respectfully but firmly. "Thanks for congratulating me," he said, "but all I want now is a super fight. I want a fight at heavyweight." Pereira's response made it clear that his focus is not on returning to middleweight or even defending his current light heavyweight title right away. Instead, the Brazilian superstar has his eyes set on making history by moving up once again, potentially to face a top heavyweight contender or even challenge for a third UFC title in as many divisions. "I appreciate the respect," Pereira continued, "but I have bigger goals right now. I want to keep testing myself, and the next challenge I'm interested in is at heavyweight." For fans hoping to see a grudge match between Pereira and Chimaev, the news might come as a disappointment. The two have traded verbal jabs in the past, with Chimaev repeatedly claiming he could dominate Pereira with his grappling. Pereira, on the other hand, has often brushed off those comments, choosing to focus on the fighters who are directly ahead of him in the rankings and divisions he's currently active in.
The contrast between the two fighters' career paths is striking.
Chimaev, known for his explosive wrestling and fearsome aggression, has been climbing the middleweight ladder, while Pereira has already achieved the rare feat of becoming a two-division UFC champion in record time. With back-to-back wins over elite opponents, Pereira has solidified himself as one of the most feared and respected fighters in the organization.
Dana White and the UFC matchmakers are undoubtedly keeping a close eye on Pereira's ambitions.
A move to heavyweight could open up blockbuster possibilities, from a potential clash with Tom Aspinall to a high-profile showdown with former champions like Stipe Miocic. If Pereira succeeds in that venture, he would become the first fighter in UFC history to hold titles in 3 different divisions, cementing his legacy as one of the greatest combat sports athletes of all time.
As for Chimaev, it seems his callout may go unanswered, at least for now.
Pereira's tone at the press conference was polite but final, indicating that his focus lies elsewhere.
"Thank you," he repeated with a faint smile when pressed about Chimaev again, "but my goal is a super fight at heavyweight." With that, Pereira made his stance clear. While challengers may be lining up for their shot, his eyes are fixed on making history once again, this time in the heaviest and most dangerous division in the sport.